Welcome to West Virginia Urban Legends. 1. The Trans-Allegheny Asylum, previously known as the Weston State Hospital, is a former psychiatric hospital located in Lewis County. It is allegedly haunted by its former patients. Construction of the hospital was authorized by the Virginia General Assembly in late 1858. The building's construction was halted by the Civil War in 1861. The building is the largest hand-cut stone masonry in the country. The asylum opened in 1864 and was operated by the West Virginia government. It was originally designed to hold 250 patients, but at its peak, it held more than 2,400 patients in its overcrowded accommodations. In 1871, the famous clock tower was completed. The ground's total acreage was over 666 acres. Due to changes in psychiatric care, as well as poor building conditions, the hospital closed in 1994. In 2007, the West Virginia Department of Health and Resources auctioned the building off. Joe Jordan purchased the building. Today, paranormal activity is often reported. There are even guided tours of the building available. 2. The headless students. While hitchhiking back to their dorms in 1970, 2 female students disappeared and were found headless only months later. It is believed that they were on their way back from the movies. They were picked up downtown and never made it home. The decapitated bodies of 2 girls were discovered along an old mining road. Their murderer confessed years later, but their heads were never found, and they were never put to rest. Witnesses say they can hear growling, screaming, and whistling coming from the nearby woods of Chestlake, where the girls are reportedly wandering in search of their heads. Car accidents in the area have been blamed on shadowy apparitions of 2 girls running back and forth throughout the woods. So if you're in Chestlake, remember, don't lose your head. 3. The Ouga River Monster. Something may be lurking deep in the waters, waiting for a lonely student or deer passing by. The legends of a river creature, 15 foot, was once told by natives to warn off settlers along the Monongahela River and Ohio River, but a documented sighting may hold proof that the beast is more than fiction. The monster was named the Ouga by the natives that used it to protect their homeland. It is rumored to look like a large, mutated turtle with 2 heads, keeping to the water by day and sliding to the land by night to hunt. The monster is said to feed on deer when it ventures to the land at night. It waits for them in the brush and sweeps them into the water to devour them. It may sound like a tall tale, but according to letters written by a man staying in Fort Hammer that saw the creature in action and ran back to the fort to gather men, the report ends with the men clubbing the creature to death, but the legend still lives on till this day. Tracks inciting a large alligator-like figure have been reported along the Monongahela River in recent years. In April 2015, an influx of reports of alligator-like creatures began surfacing, yet no one could catch the creature. Regardless if you believe the creature was killed or something lives on in the Monongahela River, keep your eyes peeled. The next time you're riverside, you might be unfortunate to catch it on a day where it's craving something a little different than deer. 4. The legend of Screaming Jenny Jefferson. Going along the railroad tracks on a late night in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, might just provide one of the most frightening moments of a person's life. These tracks are home to a legend of Screaming Jenny, a tragedy that took place in the mid-19th century near the old storage shed by the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. The story goes that Jenny lived along a small shed that didn't have much. She didn't have a family, was forced to find a job wherever she could, and sustain little money. Her only shelter was the small shed, which provided her a place to sleep and a small fireplace, of little but enough to keep her warm during the cold winter months. However, one fire she lit turned into a tragedy. It was late in the fall, and she was shivering due to the temperatures, and drinking broth out of a wooden bowl A spark from one of the fires reached her skirt and put her and her clothes into flames. Unfortunately, Jenny didn't notice the flames beginning to surround her. She wasn't aware until they burned through the wool of her skirt and reached her skin. Jenny would then throw the broth over the flame, but to no avail. She ran outside hoping to find help, but there was also to no avail. She kept screaming and screaming out of horror. Then the end was near. Jenny moved towards the train tracks. She was a ball of fire. She didn't notice the headlights of the passing train on the tracks. The train would run her over, leading to her tragic passing. 1 month after the incident, one train driver was passing along the same part of the track that Jenny was killed on. It was too late to stop when he noticed a ball of fire, so he stopped when he could. When the driver went back to try and hopefully aid the victim, nobody was there. Now that same tale strikes on the anniversary of her death every year. 5. The Sodder Children Disappearance. While there are many mysteries in West Virginia, the disappearance of the Sodder children is perhaps the most brutal. On Christmas in 1943, the family of 2 Italian immigrants who settled in Fayetteville suffered an unimaginable tragedy, a fire that burned their house to the ground. George and Jenny, the parents of the few of their children, managed to escape the flames. But that wasn't true for all of the Sodders. 5 of their children, ranging between 5 and 14 years of age, were lost. For the children that were lost, there are some serious questions as to how it happened. The official cause of the death of the Sodder children was the fire, an electrical fire. But the Sodder family and many of its neighbors, and plenty more on the internet afterwards, would disagree. What would seem like an incredibly unlucky tragedy might actually be part of a group of murders and kidnappings. George, as an Italian immigrant, harbored negative views of Benito Mussolini and his government. Some believe that his outspoken criticism triggered the disaster at the hands of the Sicilian mafia, who perhaps kidnapped their children before the fire was even started. The evidence of this is the lack of evidence, the children's death in the flames. Depending on the account of the story, there were no remains found of the children in the house fire. This opened up a search conducted by the family, along with the federal and state efforts, thinking at least some of the children were still alive. Since the investigation has ended, the mystery itself still lives on. Sylvia Sodder Paxton, the last of the surviving children, has continued her efforts and publicized the mystery in hopes of answers. Thank you for listening to these West Virginia urban legends. If I missed any that you wanted me to cover, I have a viewer submission email in my description. And remember, don't shoot the messenger.